breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Jon Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler. We're going to chat it up with him about what we've been seeing out of the Philadelphia Phillies the last few weeks, what we might be seeing at the trade deadline, and so much more. In the final segment, small slate but a fun slate, I give you picks and analysis on all 5 games on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM. Name does not matter. Size per usual. Please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had ourselves a fun day of baseball on Wednesday. Let's take a look back at it. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Red Sox were able to extend their win streak to 15 games in game number 1. We'll get to game number 2 a little bit later, but 6-3, they get the job done here as Jake Bennett gives up 3 runs of 5 2/3 innings. You had Christian Encarnacion Strand get his second home run of the campaign. From there, Justin Slayton for outside the bullpen squirrels. Garrett Whitlock, Aroldis Chapman, they both led a squirrel inning, and Dean Kramer got destroyed. 6 runs allowed in 6 innings as Ceddanne Rafaela. 9th home run of the campaign. Anthony Nunez from there, 2 shutout innings, but that extended the win streak of the Red Sox to 15, and for the Yankees, things have been a little bit rough for them. Just 25-23 at home going into game 2 of their double dip. For the Pirates, they got a 5-3 win in game number 1 with Mitch Keller providing 5 shutout innings. Carmen Bolzinski does give up 3 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Ben Rice, 30th home run of the season. But Mason Montgomery far outside the bullpen squirrels. Gregory Soto, squirrels inning, and Garrett Cole, 11 punch-outs. He does give up, though, 3 runs in 7 innings, including a pair of bombs. Nick Gonzalez, he was able to get his 6th home run of the season. Jacob Gonzalez, his 4th. Brian Hendrick, David Benhart, they both give you a squirrel inning. And then in the 10th, Fernando Cruz, 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in his inning of work. And then Kervin Castro has to come in to get the final 2 outs after Cruz only got 1 out in that 10th inning, being able to get a lot of scoreless innings. How about what we saw out of these guys? A really nice win from the St. Louis Cardinals, 1-0 over the LA Angels. Reed Demers was solid in this one. 5 1/3 innings, gives up a home run to J.J. Weatherholt, 15th home run of the season. From there, Jose Fermin, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Sammy Totera, Mitch Ferris, Kirby Yates all led scoreless innings, but Hunter Dobbins, 6 shutout innings for the Angels. They strand 8 men on base. Luis Castillo, along with George Soriano, Riley O'Brien, they're all able to turn scoreless innings. The Colorado Rockies shutout at Coors. That's not what you want to see if you're the Colorado Rockies. 8-0, the Washington Nationals get the job done as Cade Cavalli, 6 shutout innings. From there, Mitch Krenick was able to give you a scoreless inning, and Eddie Yeen, he was able to come in for 2 shutout. For Gabriel Hughes, honestly, a good start here. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. Bullpen from there was not great. Brendan Bernardino, a shutout inning, but Jimmy Erget, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 2/3 of an inning. Luis Garcia, 21st home run of the season. Zach Ognos, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned. Give it up in his 2 1/3 innings of work. Being able to go to work, the Milwaukee Brewers, they get a 4-3 win over the New York Mets. For the Metropolitans, Christian Scott was not great. Scott, 3 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. Cionel Perez, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Oscar Brisbane gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. AJ Minter was able to come in for a scoreless inning, and then you had Daniel Duarte give you 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Logan Anderson does give up a pair of home runs. Marcus Semien is 10th, Brett Beatty is 6th, but those were of the solo variety. He gives up 2 runs in 5 innings. From there, Aaron Ashby, pair of scoreless innings. Ebony Uribe, scoreless inning. Trevor McGill does give up a run in the 9th, but Brewers find a way to persevere there. Yeah, the run line, not so much, but hey, nice win for the Brewers, and the Kansas City Royals have been a royal disappointment, but looking a little bit better at home. 5-4, they take down the San Francisco Giants. A Landon Roop, 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Salvador Perez, I believe that he set a franchise record with his home run, 14th of the campaign. Been better since the All-Star break. Sam Entages, pair of runs allowed in 1/3 of an inning. Keaton Wynn, he comes in for a pair of outs, gives up a run along the way. Eric Miller, scoreless inning, and Seth Lugo keeps things out in front of him. 3 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. Daniel Lynch, Steven Cruz from there. They both come in for an inning. Cruz does give up a home run as Casey Schmidt, his 20th home run of the campaign, but the Royals, they find a way to be able to royally get the job done. So do the Arizona Diamondbacks, 15-5 all over the Athletics. The regression is coming for Gage Jump. 6 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, and he was cranked deep 3 times in this one. Nolan Arenado, his 14th home run season. Corbin Carroll is 15th, and then Gabriel Moreno is 7th. A little bit later on, you'd have James McCann get his third home run of the season, and Ryan Waldschmidt, his first career home run. Those come off of Junior Tour, who gives up 8 runs and got a pair of outs out of the bullpen. He now has a 47.25 ERA. Carlos Cortez, a position player, had to get an out of the bullpen. Squirrels. Hayden Junger has to hold down the fort in this one. Comes in for 2 1/3 innings, gives up 1 run along the way. Merrill Kelly, pretty solid start here. 2 runs allowed. He goes 5 innings in this one as going deep for the Athletics. Jeff McNeil, 4th home run of the campaign. From there, Jonathan Loaizaga, squirrel setting. Ilyarmo Vargas, that's a position player. He gave up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work. And Gerald Carrillo, hopefully I got that correct, might be Carrillo. He gives up 1 run over the course of his 2 innings to be able to polish that one off. The Cincinnati Reds were on to a win in Seattle, 5-3. They take down the Mariners as Emerson Hancock, 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, and Brady Singer, well, he was singing the blues a little bit, 3 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings, but bullpen at his back. Brock and Roberk, 4 outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels immediately begun a squirrel setting, and Edward Pizarro, 3 runs allowed in his inning of work. Chris Wilcox, he gives up nothing in his 2 shutout innings, but for the Seattle Mariners, too little too late with Edward Pizarro giving up a bomb to his cousin Sal Stewart, 21st home run of the season. Then off of Emerson Hancock, J.J. Bleday gets his 17th home run of the season. That Red Sox win streak, by the way, it would end at 15. 5-1 in game number 2. The Orioles get the job done here. Kyle Bradish, really good start. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Emmanuel Rivera, not such a good start. 4 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Brian Bayo was actually tremendous in long relief. 5 1/3 inning. Squirrels. Giovanni Morin gives up a run in an inning. Ryan Watson and then Alec Gamboa both give you a squirrel inning. Yunior Canoa, Andrew Kittredge, Tyler Wells, they pitch Wells. They're all able to give you a shutout inning, being able to give you lots of scoreless innings as well. How about the Detroit Tigers? 5-1. They take down the Chicago Cubs. For the Cubs, Seiya Suzuki goes deep off of Kadir Montero in the first inning for his 17th home run season. That's all that Montero will give up. 8 punch-outs, 1 run allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Drew Summers, pair of outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels. Drew Anderson, Kyle Finnegan, Kenley Jansen, all on his squirrel inning, and Colin Ray, more like Colin Boo. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Spencer Torkelson, 19th home run season. Ayo Lee, his 5th home run of the season. Tyler Ferguson gives up a run in an inning. Ryan Rolson, Caleb Theobar, Grant Hollowell, they're all able to turn scoreless innings for the Braves. They get the job done against the Slam Diego Padres by a count of 7-6 in a game where if you had the under, you should be feeling very salty. This game was 1-1 going into the bottom of the 8th inning, and then the Atlanta Braves absolutely explode upon Wandy Peralta. Michael King, he had a good start. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Martin Perez, not long but solid. 4 shutout innings out of him. Dylan Dodd gives up nothing in his inning of work. D.D. Fuentes goes 2 innings for the Atlanta Braves. He does give up a solo home run as Jackson Merrill, 14th home run of the season. Luis Rengifo, he would get his 1st home run of the season. As for the bullpen, this was not great. Dylan Lee was able to give you a scoreless inning, but the Braves give up a 5 spot in the 9th inning. If you had the run line, man, that's rough. Victor Medeiros gives up 4 runs in a 3rd inning. Racio Iglesias, he gets charged with 1 run as he inherited some runners and then gives up that bomb, but closes out the game. And then Wandy Peralta, 4 runs allowed in a 3rd inning. Randy Vasquez, he gave up a pair of runs as well. So wild and crazy out there, and it's been wild and crazy what we've seen out of the Chicago White Sox this far this season. How about a 4-2 win over the Walker Texas Rangers? As for the White Sox, Anthony Kay, more than okay. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. He does give up a home run. It was number 1 of the season, and I believe the career of Cam Cauley. Congratulations to him. From there, Jordan Nix and Brian Hudson both give you a scoreless inning. You get 2 shutout from Grant Taylor, and Tyler Alexander, the opener, gives up a 1 run in 2 innings. Cal Quantrill, 2 runs allowed in 3 innings. Jacob Junis gives up a run in an inning. Robbie Elstrom, Jacob Latz, Peyton Gray, they'll give you a scoreless inning, but not a lot doing for the Rangers at the plate. Quite a bit doing for the Minnesota Twins at the plate, though. 10-6, they take down the Cleveland Guardians. Slade Ciccone, 7 runs, 3 which weren't given up in 4 2/3 innings. 3 errors hurt them out there in the field, as he does give up a pair of runs. Trevor Larnach, 8th home run season. Brooks Lee, his 15th. Eric Sabrowski, 4 outs of the bullpen, scoreless. And then you'd have Matt Fessa not have a fiesta. 3 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in 2/3 of an inning of work. Franco Ailman, a scoreless inning. Will Dion, he comes in for 4 outs of the bullpen, scoreless. Bailey Ober, this was not great from him. 4 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, but the bullpen was relatively solid from there. Andrew Morris does give up a solo home run in his inning. We're cranking him deep. Kyle Manzardo, 11th home run season. Cody Funderburk, scoreless inning. Travis Adams, 2 shutout, and then Yandris Gomez does give up a run in an inning, but for the Twins, they find a way to persevere there. Also being able to find a way to persevere, the Yankees in game number 2, 2-0. They take down the Pirates. Max Fried in his first start in over 2 months. 5 shutouts, 7 punchouts. He was great. Anel Shavili, a scoreless inning. Paul Blackburn walks plank for 2 shutout. And then Will Warren, Tim Hill, they both give you a scoreless inning. Bubba Chandler, 6 1/3 inning scoreless. Brandon Eisert, pair of runs given up in his 2/3 of an inning. He takes the L as you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez. Not mess with, he gives you a scoreless inning as well. And then For the LA Dodgers, they continue their offensive tear on the road. 9-5, they take down the Philadelphia Phillies. Aaron Nola continues to be miserable. 2 home runs, 5 runs allowed, and 5 1/3 innings. Max Muncy, 20th home run season. Dalton rushing his 11th, and then Eric Lauer wasn't amazing himself. Does give up a pair of homers, but limits the damage to 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. You had a home run number 13 of the season for Alec Boehm, and where are all the De La Cruzes coming from? This was Brian De La Cruz who was able to get his first home run of the campaign. From there, Brock and Roll Stewart, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Jack Dreyer, a scoreless inning. You had a run given up in an inning by both Edgar Enriquez and Will Klein, but more than enough to get them to the window as Tim Meza gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Seth Johnson, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Ryan Kirkering, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels, and then you were able to get a scoreless inning out of Alex McFarland. I believe that was his MLB debut, so good for him, but not great for the Philadelphia Phillies on this day. This was pretty solid, though, for the Tampa Bay Rays, as the Blue Jays continue to be the worst offense in all of baseball. 4-2, Rays get the job done. Griffin Jacks was all jacked up. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Cam Boozer does give up a home run to, don't call his name, Leander Kirk. 3rd home run of the campaign, gives up that 1 run in 2/3 inning, but Kevin Kelly, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Brian Baker, a scoreless inning, and for the Blue Jays, you had Braden Fisher as the opener, give up a run in 1 1/3 innings. Spencer Miles, solid as bulk guy, 3 2/3 innings squirrels. Jeff Hoffman, 3 unearned runs given up. Dalton Varsho hurt his cause with an error out there in the field. Mason Flaherty and out of the bullpen squirrels. Tyler Rogers, Brandon Little, Louis Varland all give you a scoreless inning, but for the Rays, 4 of 8 with men in scoring position, so they produced when they needed to, and the Astros produced when they needed to. They take the series from the Miami Marlins, this by a count of 5-2. Marlins, after they had the best record in all of June, coming back to earth as Sandy Alcantara. 5 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings, gives up 3 home runs. Jeremy Pena's 9th. Jordan Alvarez, 34th, and Isaac Paredes, his 14th. Peter Lambert, pretty solid, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Calvin Fauché for the Marlins, by the way, scoreless inning, and then you had scoreless innings for the Astros. Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, and Aniel De Los Santos to be able to get that one in. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, for the most part, it's been an overwhelming season, but the unders have made a nice push recently, and they're back in the lead. 751 unders, 746 unders, and if math serves me correct, we have had 35 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting at 56.1%, 835 and 653. But among those favorites, we have now seen 194 fail to cover the run line over the last 7 days. The favorites are 47 and 38, but only 35 of those 47 teams have been able to cover the run line. The under rate, 55.7%, 49 unders, 39 overs, and I believe we've had 2 pushes along the way, and if you're looking at the last 30 days, underrated is 52.6 or so percent, 189 unders, 170 overs, and 16 pushes along the way, with favorites over the last 30 days doing pretty solid, 203 and 148 on the money line, and among those favorites, all but 46 have been able to cover the run line. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now. That's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do have a nice chat with our good friend Jon Jansen over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Jon Jansen aboard, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's locked in with everything that we're getting out there in the Philadelphia area with regards to the Philadelphia Phillies. No doubt about it, the Philadelphia Eagles with the football season coming up and so much more. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the letter J, last name Jansen, number 34, all together. And John, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And shout out to the city of Philadelphia for putting on a really great All-Star event. I heard a lot of things about the All-Star Village. I was there and everybody talking about that. So Philly, completely knocked it out of the park. They were awesome.
Absolutely. And knocking it out of the park has been the Phillies recently. Ever since that rough first month and a half of the season, things have been great for them. And how do you take a look at this team as we are now approaching the trade deadline? And I think you'd agree, so a little bit of a top-heavy team, but it does feel like more of those middle infielders are giving them a bit more at the plate. And this is looking like a more and more complete team by the day.
Yeah, Bryson Stott is playing a lot better, and that's kind of what they needed. Trey Turner's hitting great. The only thing, and that's the thing with this Phillies team, it always feels like there is a little bit of a caveat with some of this stuff, because I could say, yes, Trey Turner is hitting the baseball extremely well for the past month, it feels like. But also on the other side of that is he leads the majors in errors this season. So there's some caveats to it, but overall, yeah, things look a lot better. You want a little bit more maybe out of Christopher Sanchez. His stuff's been getting hit more, but I feel like he was good in his last start. Zach Wheeler's been great. I've liked what I've seen from Luzardo, as you just said, some guys hitting a little bit better that weren't. Kyle Schwarber's still hitting home runs. So, again, with the position that they're in and all things considered with the way the season started, everything's fine right now. Everything's really good. And I guess you take a look at the rest of Major League Baseball. So, yes, I can point out the Phillies issues, but there's some teams that are struggling right now. The Phillies still sit 10 games above 500 at the moment. A few games back from the Braves. Everything feels good.
Yep, things are feeling very good for this team right now, and it is going to be interesting to see what happens with them moving forward because there's a lot of intrigue out there in that National League because I do feel like for the Phillies, they now have a realistic shot of being able to win the division with the way that the Atlanta Braves have toiled, and don't look now, but the Miami Marlins have been playing some good baseball as well. How do you take a look at this entire landscape of the NL East? Because the Braves got off to a hot start, looked like they were going to be uncatchable. Now they're looking very, very mortal. The Phillies have been able to heat up, and the Miami Marlins are right there on both of their heels as well.
Yeah, a few teams, and it looks like it's going to be most likely a two-horse race. Miami and Washington both are sort of in it and really need to shore some things up. I think with Washington, we always know what it is. It's pitching. Pitching needs to get a lot better. And I feel like it has been slightly better as of late, but it really just feels like the Braves and the Phillies. And that's where the trade deadline comes in big because, in order to make that kind of run, I think the Phillies are going to need to get a couple of bullpen arms. Brad Keller just went down. He's out for the season with an arm injury now. They were hoping to get him back, and as soon as he was about to come back, then got hurt for the season. They need some bullpen help. They're still trying to figure out. They don't know exactly what they want to do with that fifth spot in the rotation yet. So that's something that's going to need to be figured out. And I still think they need a bat, even though Derek Hill has been pretty good. He's been one of the big positive pieces that they've had. I still think they might need a bat because you just can't rely on, what Derek Hill has been in his career. And I think the stuff you get from him is a bonus, but you still need to really figure out that spot in the outfield spot in the right-handed bat. But yeah, they're in a great position to do it, and I think just as good, if not better of a position than the Braves are right now. So yeah, I think everything's good, and trade deadline's going to have a big impact on it, though, of kind of what happens here.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting to see what they attack there. As joining me, we've got our good friend Jon Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, and they're going to be having a big series coming up this week against the New York Yankees. Obviously, they're off Thursday, and how do you take a look at this series for the Philadelphia Phillies? Because it's setting up to have a lot of their aces on the bump. I believe that we're going to be seeing Christopher Sanchez. Wheeler should be going in Game 1 against the Miami Marlins. It's a little bit TBD for that Saturday, but having Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez going, I think is going to be big, especially with this being a home series where Christopher Sanchez has really been able to shine.
Yeah, and I think it's more because the Yankees still have one of the better offenses. Man, Ben Rice having a great season. He just hit a home run. I know it was a loss in the game they played against Pittsburgh, but he looks great. They just have so many really good players and good players in the lineup. And that's even without Aaron Judge, stuff like that. But it's just the Phillies. The one concern is their offense sometimes lags behind. It is top heavy. It's getting a little bit better. We've already mentioned Bryson Stott getting better, but I think it's always a good test when you play some of the big boys in these really good lineups like the Dodgers. Like the Yankees, you can't just have what they have kind of been really inconsistent days. Some days they hit 10 runs and everything looks really great. And then the next game they'll go out, score only one run and really look really sluggish at the plate. So that's kind of the big test for me is you're going up against these real big slugging offenses and your pitching can take you pretty far, and your pitching can help you out in some of these games. And as you just mentioned, Sanchez and Wheeler, things might line up with the rotation, and it might line up where they could have some good pitching matchups. But you're playing the Yankees and the Dodgers, you're gonna have to hit. And so that's the big thing is, and the big test is can they do that consistently enough to beat these teams and win these series?
Yep, I think that is going to be intriguing to see, and it's been an interesting year in general right now for the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of ups and downs. And what have you made out of the fact that they've actually got a better road record right now than a home record? Because we talked about it on the podcast earlier in the season. And it always feels like they've got some big home and road splits. And legitimately, the offense has not been good away from home. They've been a bottom five team in terms of run creation away from home, yet they're 29 and 22 on the road, which I think is one of the real big things I take a look at for the Phillies that has me bullish on them.
Yeah, it's been good, and I feel like that's been something talked about a lot because like they've always had the home field advantage, but maybe not as good as on the road. But then, you come into a season like this and it's just felt like there's a lot of pressure coming in. And it's always talked about, is there too much pressure when you're at home in front of the fans and everything just feels tight, feels tense. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's not like the splits are really huge and, they're winning a lot on the road and not at home, or they're winning a lot at home and not on the road. It feels a little bit more balanced as it has been. So that's the one thing for me. It doesn't feel as eye-opening as it has in previous years. It does, yes, feel like it's a little bit tense at home sometimes, and this feels like it's such a make-or-break season for a lot of players on this team, just like for the core of this team. So that at times it feels like that, but for the most part, like the splits aren't as wide as it feels like they have been in previous years, and that is a good sign to me because it feels like a more balanced team, or at least a balanced kind of home road splits than it has been recently.
Yep, it certainly has been a lot more balanced, and that's been very refreshing for this team. As Jon Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, is joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly, I know that you've talked about this quite a bit, and it must be brought up. The trade deadline, it is coming up here in about a week and a half, give or take a little bit. And what are you expecting at the trade deadline? Because no doubt about it, the Phillies are going to be buyers. You can expect the Dodgers to be buyers. The Brewers are going to be buyers, what have you. But I just don't know how much some of these teams are going to be able to buy, because the American League, where a lot of these teams are that would probably be selling, almost nobody's out of it in the American League right now. And I think that makes for a big giant ball of wax as to what's going to be happening there, because I just question how many sellers there's going to be in the market.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big holdup. I think some teams do end up facing the reality of what they are. And so a team like, let's just say the Tigers, maybe the Orioles, like, yes, you're within striking distance of a wild card still, and there's like a remote possibility you could get in. I still think those teams are going to look to sell. And the good thing is there's a lot of teams in the National League that have some talent that are just primed to sell. The Mets are likely going to. The Giants are going to. So, and I think there's two pretty decent sized talent pools to work with there. And then also, Detroit is leaning closer and closer to it. And that's some really big trade pieces that could end up going, and one of them being obviously Tariq Skubal. Yes, the American League is the big holdup, and I think it's the big question mark of like how many teams are willing to sell. But I think more than not, at least from what it just seems like when you hear about, the MLB hot stove and some of the MLB insiders talking about this trade deadline, it feels like teams are going to be more than willing to sell, even though they are close to maybe a wild card spot because of the reality of their situations. And I think teams are fully aware of kind of what they are. To me, there's going to be a lot of trade pieces. I think it's going to be a pretty wild deadline. There are plenty of teams that I think are going to buy. Phillies are going to buy. There's a lot of needs. So that's the thing about the contending teams. It just feels like there's always something more they could add. Not like, Dodgers and Yankees in previous years where everything seems pretty good and you just have to fill a couple small holes. There's a lot of teams that are in contention and like big time contenders that have holes to fill, and including the Phillies. So it just feels like it. And of course, there's going to be some real aggressive sellers like the Mets that are going to let go with some pretty big names and really good bats. I just think it's going to be there's going to be a lot of moves, and I think some big ones. So I'm kind of bracing myself for a pretty wild trade deadline.
Yep, I think that things are going to be insane, to say the least, here in the next few weeks in baseball. We are going to see some of these teams go on runs like the Red Sox. We're going to see some of these teams like the Braves, who have toilet bowled recently as well. So there's a lot of volatility to be had. And as we're sitting here right now, a few days away from the trade deadline, is there a team or two that you're looking at? It could be National League or American League that you've been changing your tune on a little bit over the last few weeks, and you're now either starting to feel either much better or much worse about them than you were earlier in the season?
The obvious one is like the Red Sox. Like, good Lord. Man, like a 15-game winning streak that they went on. It's a complete turnaround. So it's hard not to like look at them and be like, wow, how could you not change your tune on what they've done and how quickly it's happened. And in such a weird way. But also, like, White Sox have been fairly consistent. And so that's a team like you are excited, or at least like you go, okay, that's new what the White Sox are doing, and we're not used to the White Sox doing it. But like after a while, it just gets like, oh, this is for real. Like, this is a White Sox team that has some really interesting pieces. Murakami's been such an interesting player this season. And they have a couple of other bats that are really interesting too, like a real rock solid lineup. Again, after a while of a team just being what they are, like, yeah, the White Sox, like, I think it's for real. And they're could be on their way to possibly winning a division, definitely a wild card spot. And if they get in some real intriguing pieces that could help them in a league that doesn't seem all that good. So yeah, more tune changing of the White Sox, and like, okay, this is really cool. Like, and we weren't expecting this from the White Sox. And now it's like, this is kind of what they are. It's not like they're, have won, 9 of the last 10. It's like they're just consistently a little bit above 500 each week. And that is like exactly kind of where a White Sox team and a good team can be in the American League. So yeah, I'm intrigued by the White Sox.
Yep, they're getting the job done. Just like you, my friend, you always do a great job in terms of getting the job done. You're doing an absolutely incredible job over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can follow me at JJansen34. Going to be doing a lot of fun stuff over at the National in Chicago next week. One of the biggest hobby card show in the country. So going to be over there, and plenty of baseball cards as well. So a lot of baseball cards being tossed around and traded and bought and also talked about too. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun happening next week, July 29th through August 2nd, I think. But yeah, you can follow all of it on my socials at JJansen34.
I used to collect sports cards back in the day. I had a really nice Anquan Boldin collection of the Arizona Cardinals.
Boldin, nice.
Yes, that's where the 81 comes from on at @GUnit_81. That is
wow. I did not know this about Greg Peterson lore. That's actually very cool.
He was a man that played a full season on a broken face and was a Pro Bowler that year. So he's always got my respect. Just like Jon Jansen has my respect. He does such a great job looking at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Jon for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games obviously in time order, any interleague games, and I believe that we don't have any today, but if we did, maybe at the bottom, that'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. And just a little bit of a aside, the Diamondbacks versus Cardinals game, that will be the bottom game because that was added in as it was a game that was rained out earlier in the season. But first things first, 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Slam Diego Padres on the road against the Atlanta Braves as Chris Sale hopes to not sell here for the Braves. Good day, Finn Canning for the San Diego Padres. 8 is the total. Over is -112, under is -108, -225 on the Braves. And if you're looking at the run line, that's +105, and for the Padres, +188, and I'm willing to lay the run line here with the Atlanta Braves. I'm willing to go up to a -113. Chris Sale has absolutely been rocking and rolling this year. I know that maybe the fielding independent is a little bit higher than the ERA, but I mean, it's hard for it to not be because it's a 2.06 ERA right now. 10.5 strikeouts, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, allowing 0.7 home runs per 9. Yeah, it's been tremendous. Meanwhile, you've got a guy in Griffin Canning. Well, he's been getting canned this year. 6.67 ERA, 1.4 home runs, 4.9 walks per 9 innings. The good news for the Padres is that their offense has been a little bit better when they've been away from home rather than at home. I mean, they're still ranking 25th in the league in terms of runs per game, but 3.7 runs per game at home, a little bit over 4.5 runs per game away from home. And Fernando Tatis Jr. does have 3 home runs ever since the All-Star break, so seems like he's starting to heat up a little bit. He couldn't have been much colder than what he was to begin the season, and you just still have have so many guys that have not been able to hit, though, for the San Diego Padres team. You've got likes of a Jake Cronenworth, who's hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. Xander Bogaerts actually had an okay start to the season, and now he's toilet bowled. Gavin Sheets does have 14 home runs, but 215 average. And Manny Machado, 22 home runs. He's giving you a 294 on base and a 204 batting average as well. Now for the Padres, even though they're dealing with the Jason Adam injury, this has been a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA in the National League. You've had these guys like a Bradley Rodriguez, Yuki Matsui, obviously Mason Miller, be able to supply a sub 3 ERA. They've all been rock solid. Even with Jeremiah Stroud out of the fold, they've been pretty solid, but for the Atlanta Braves, they are numero uno in the National League in terms of their bullpen ERA as well. The Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, these two guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. DDA Fuentes has been able to find a nice home in the bullpen as well, and for the Atlanta Braves, they do score a little bit less at home rather than away from home. Would like to see them draw a few more walks, but Michael Harris, Drake Baldwin enter into yesterday, both to give you 18 home runs apiece. Harris is hitting at 362 on base for Baldwin, who's been much better ever since the All-Star break. Ozzy, Albies, he and Mauricio Dubon, both hitting about a 260, and Ozzy has been able to give you 15 bombs. Matt Olson is up to 26 home runs. Need maybe a little bit more from some of these guys at the bottom of the fold, but even Jim Jarvis in a small sample size has been solid, so I do think they get some nice domination here from the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to be willing to lay that run line in. I'm actually going to be in on the over. I do think that they get to Griffin Canning, semi-total here at an 8.2. 953, 954 on the card. You got yourself the Minnesota Twins on the road against the Cleveland Guardians as Gavin Williams goes for the Cleveland Guardians. Taj Cole, Milton Bradley opening and out-play games here for Minnesota. Right now we are fighting the Guardians at a minus 130 plus 110. For Minnesota, 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120 and the under is even money. And I'm going to be willing to take the Guardians. I set them at a minus 148. For Gavin Williams, he has been significantly better at home this year. Overall for the season, a 4 ERA, but he is getting about 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been hurt by the deep ball quite a bit, about 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but you've got a guy on the flip side, and Taj Bradley is very similar. 385 ERA, 10.4 strikeouts, 1.3 home runs, and 3.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, but that ERA goes up to a 450 with about 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 when he's away from home, and the bullpen disparity here is huge for the Minnesota Twins bottom 5 team. In terms of bullpen ERA, their bullpen ERA is well above a 5. You just have not been able to have really any of these guys whatsoever be able to give you much. Yandres Gomez, I guess, has been okay since he's come over for the team, but I mean, these guys like a Cody Lawyerson, Taylor Rogers, Eric Orze when he's been out there, as I believe that he's dealing with a little bit of injury. Anthony Panda, they've all been rough. Andrew Morris has actually been relatively okay, but Travis Adams has been anything but okay. It is a Twins lineup that's in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. Getting back Byron Buxton is big. 25 home runs. He's hitting about a 275. Cody Clemens is up to 18 bombs. Josh Bell, Brooks Lee, these guys have both been hitting about a 250, and Bell has been much better here ever since the beginning of the month of June in terms of moving the line, and then to have a guy in Trevor Larnach who's able to give you about a 380 on base. So I would be willing to take the 7.5 to the over. If this goes to an 8, I would not, but did semi-total 7.8, as I do think that the Guardians are starting to find their sea legs a little bit more on offense. It's been rough without Jose Ramirez, Anel Martinez, but they've been able to get a little bit more out of the likes of Travis Bazzana, Brian Rocchio, these guys who have been able to give you over a 335 on base. It's still been a really rough year for Rhys Hoskins. Recognize that he's had a few bombs, but man, that's not been great. But Chase Salauter hitting above a 285. He gives you a relatively solid on base, 11 home runs. Need more out of these guys like P.D. Halpin, Patrick Bailey, Kyle Manzardo. You go down the list of guys hitting a 220 or lower at the bottom of the full, but really like what I'm seeing on this bullpen. Tim Aaron, there's a chance that he comes off the injury list for this game, but even if not, you've got Hunter Gaddis, who's down below a 3 ERA. Kate Smith has been one of the better closers in all of baseball. Eric Sabrowski give you some good innings. So I do think that for the Cleveland Guardians, they do find a way here. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 147 on that money line. And with regards to this total, I did set mine at a 7.8. So here at the 7.5, I'm going to be in on the over. 9:55, 9:56 on the card. The Rays are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays as Ian Seymour goes for the Rays, and we've got Shane Bieber, who's got a fever for getting outs for the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays right now find themselves right around about minus 105, between minus 110 to minus 115 for Tampa Bay. 8.5 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and I actually do like the under here at semi-total 7.9. It's mainly because this Toronto Blue Jays lineup has been that bad. They are now dead stinking last in terms of run creation with less than 4 runs per game. Like, man, not been great. And I mean, you've got guys that are moving the line. Nathan Lukes has been hitting above a 285. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has actually toilet bowled with his batting average ever since beginning a part of the season. He was getting on base, but now that's been going by the wayside as well. But even someone like an Ernie Clement has been able to hit above a 280. You've had Tom Varsho be able to find a way on, but just not a lot of power. Kazuma Okamoto was the lone guy entering into yesterday with more than 10 home runs, 22 bombs overall for the season, and for the Rays, you just have good overall balance. Junior Caminero, 13 home runs in his last 20 games. Overall, he's been able to give you over a 375 on base with those 29 bombs. Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, both of these guys above a 375 on base. 13 to 14 home runs apiece out of both of those guys. Chandler Simpson has been one of the best base stealers in all baseball this season. He's hitting above a 270. And then these mix and match guys like a Nick Fortes has been able to hit above a 250. Ryan Velde has found a way to be able to move the line now for the Rays. You're at a little bit of a disadvantage in the bullpen. It's been rough to say the least for a lot of these guys, but Brian Baker has a sub-2 ERA. Kevin Kelly has been able to give you a sub-250 ERA. And ever since they've brought in Casey Lugumina, Cam Boozer, I mean, these guys have been solid, especially Boozer has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays, Louis Varland, along with Tyler Rogers, have been very solid in this bullpen. And then the opener from yesterday, Braden Fisher, he's been able to give you some okay innings, but you're going to need probably a lot of this bullpen because Shane Bieber just has not been good since coming off the injury list whatsoever. For Bieber, he's got an ERA that is right now in that neighborhood about a 570, and the fielding independence a 686. 2.7 home runs, 4.6 walks allowed per 9 innings. With Ian Seymour, he always has been a better pitcher with regards to his swing and miss stuff as a starter. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings coming out of the bullpen. 11.4 punch-outs per 9. Does have a 4.79 ERA, but a better 4.40 fielding independent going against his rough Blue Jays lineup. I do think that the Rays get the job done here. For the Rays, I set them at a minus 119. I'm going to be in on their money line, and I do like this under. I set my total here at a 7.9. 957, 958 on the card. It's the Royals. They're going to be on the road against the Detroit Tigers. We do know that Troy Melton is going to be on the bump for Detroit, and right now for the Kansas City Royals, it's a little bit to be determined. We are thinking that it's going to be Randy Dominic going for them, and right now with the Detroit Tigers, you're going to be finding them in that neighborhood about minus 185 to a minus 190, plus 155 to plus 160 is that number on Kansas City. 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I do like the under here. I set my total at a 7.7, mainly because for the Kansas City Royals, they just have had a tough time generating offense when they've been away from home. At home, this has been a pretty good offense, and Jack Aglione, Carter Jensen, they're both above 13 home runs, so things have been improving there, but 3.7 runs per game away from home, that is dead sinking last in all baseball. And for Troy Melton, do I think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with him? I do think so, because right now he is maintaining a 1.80 ERA with a 3.87 fielding independent. The swing and miss stuff has been way up, though. He has outgone 6+ strikeouts in each out of his last 4 starts, so he's up to 8.2 strikeouts, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. You also have to think that Randy Dominic is going to be in for some regression as well. Right now, he's posting up a 193 ERA in a very small sample size. He's only made 3 appearances thus far this season. 5.1 walks and 4.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. A sub-2 ERA while he's giving up more walks than he's getting strikeouts. That is just something that does not make sense, to say the least, but I do think that for the Tigers, they're going to be a little bit hampered with their offense, as well as you've had Kerry Carpenter and Spencer Torkelson be able to supply some power, but these are two guys that are having a really tough time in terms of just moving the line in general. Both of these guys hang below at 225. Now, it looks like Labor Torres is coming back for this team. That's going to be able to help them out significantly here, but still, with the Detroit Tigers, you've got some of these guys that are at the bottom of the fold, like a Matt Vierling, Zach McKinstry, Jake Rogers, James Outman. These guys that have been hitting a 225 or lower. Dylan Dingler, 20+ home runs. He's doing a solid job, and I love Kevin McGonigal, Riley Green. Both of these guys give you over 370 on base. And then for the Royals, Salvador Perez has hit a few home runs ever since the All-Star break, but man, the fact that he is giving you less than a 260 on base is rough. And now you've got Bobby Witt Jr. on the injury list. Like, that's not good. Miguel Garcia, who's pretty solid at moving the line, he's on the injury list as well. Jack Aglione might be missing this game as well. Like, this is a completely banged up team. Vinny Pasquantino has been a big giant disappointment. And I will say this about the Royals, man. You have a bullpen that is really, really shaky right now. Matt Strom, Steven Cruz, Lucas Ursich, a whole bunch of guys with over a 4.75 ERA. Daniel Lynch has been relatively solid along John Schreiber this year, but that's about it. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is a bunch that's in the top 5 in terms of bullpen ERA, really ever since the beginning of the month of June. Tyler Holden has seen his ERA go below 3.50. Drew Summers has been a little bit shaky, but I like what I'm seeing out of Kyle Finnegan. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Kenley Jansen is not really a guy that I trust him, to say the least, but even Emmanuel De Jesus has not been bad as a long guy as well. So I do think that the Tigers go out there, dominate this game. The money line is a little bit chalky for me. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Tigers, I'm right now seeing as good as plus 118. anything of plus 105 or better in there. And I do like the under because the Royals are so banged up, and wrap things up with 959, 960 on the card. The Cardinals are going to be playing us to the Arizona Diamondbacks. This is going to be Michael McGreevy for the Cardinals, and Brandon Pfaadt looks to battle for Arizona. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105, minus 125 to minus 130. That number on St. Louis, and you're going to be getting plus 108 to plus 110 for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I'm going to be in on the Cardinals. I did set this at a minus 143. Michael McGreevy is not a guy that's going to wow you with his swing and miss stuff or anything like that, but he's been rock solid. Only 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.92 ERA, 1.2 home runs, 2 walks allowed per 9 innings, and for Brandon Pfaadt, he has actually been quite good in his last few starts. 5 runs in total allowed in his last 4 starts since rejoining the rotation, but still a 4.58 ERA overall this season, only about 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. You do have to have your concerns there. For the Diamondbacks, it actually has been a relatively solid bullpen. Kevin Ginkel has been pretty solid, along with Taylor Clark, Ryan Thompson, Juan Barrio. All these guys have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but you do have Paul Sewald, who I think is a big giant issue for the team. And Diamondbacks are a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation away from home. Do have Geraldo Perdomo give you a 355 on base, and Gabriel Moreno netting a 300, but you've got a little bit of a lack of power. Corbin Carroll, Nolan Arenado, between 13 to 14 home runs apiece, and then Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, hitting about 255, 18 home runs, but these guys like Tommy Troy, Tim Tewa, the guys that they have been throwing at the bottom of the fold, Ore Barosa, they just have not been able to give you too much whatsoever, and I think it's striking that the Cardinals are actually dead last in terms of run creation when they're at home. They're second in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home, as Ivan Herrera, his on-base percentage is less than a 330 at home. We see J.J. Weatherholt have a little bit of shakiness at home, but he and Alec Burleson both give between 14 and 15 home runs apiece. Jordan Walker's been consistent, 22 home runs from him thus far this season. Could use a little bit more from some of these guys at the bottom of the fold, like a Mason Wynn and company, but I do think that those splits are going to iron out a little bit. Have to have a bit of trepidation with this Cardinals bullpen as well, and they're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Vance Vanson, Ryan Stanek over a 4 ERA, and Jojo Romero is on the injury list, but Justin Brule's been able to give you a sub 375 ERA. George Soriano has been reliable. Riley O'Brien could be a little bit up and down, but I do think that for the Cardinals, they do find a way to be able to get the job done here. Made my total at 88.3. So on the 8.5, like the under, and for the Cardinals, I'm a little way up to minus 143 on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day, give you guys picks and analysis on every game every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.